Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Sudan's President of the Transitional Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and discussed a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern, as well as the means of boosting bilateral relations and cooperation in all domains. The details.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held some talks on Saturday with Sudan's President of the Transitional Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, currently in an official visit to Egypt. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said the head of state welcomed General Burhan's visit to Egypt, hailing the strong historical bilateral relations. The president also said Egypt's willingness to boost relations and cooperation in all domains, the security, military, economic and trade aspects, to realize the best interests of the Egyptian and Sudanese peoples. President Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to support Sudan with all means to realize security as well as political and economic stability in light of deeply rooted binding bilateral relations and the two countries' close common national security. On his part, al-Burhan expressed full appreciation to the Egyptian leadership and people, praising the extended bonds between the two brotherly states and their peoples, as well as the unlimited support Egypt always offers in all world arenas to preserve Sudan's stability and security. The meeting witnessed the discussion of bilateral relations and coordination between both countries as the two leaders asserted the importance of elevating the economic and trade relations to reach political existing strong relations. The leaders also discussed regional and international issues of mutual concerns, including the latest developments in the Ethiopian disputed dam, as both sides agreed to resume bilateral intensive consultations to achieve common interests.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stressed the Egyptian readiness to afford all the means of support to host the mega sporting events. The president's remarks came during his meeting with the visiting IOC President Thomas Bach. The details follow.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Saturday Thomas Bach, the head of the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, currently on an official visit to Egypt heading a high-ranking delegation. The meeting was attended by Minister of Sports Ashraf Sobhi, Dr. Mustafa Braf, head of the African Olympic Committee, Hassan Mustafa, the head of the International Federation of Handball, and Hisham Hatab, the head of the Egyptian Olympic Committee. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Bassam Radi said the president welcomed Bach, hailing the committee's pivotal role in boosting sports worldwide. The head of state stressed Egypt's readiness to afford all means of support to host mega sports events. President Sisi pointed to the state's efforts to modernize and upgrade sports infrastructure with all its facilities all over Egypt and to construct the Olympic City in the new administrative capital, as well as developing roads and means of transportation with the aim of encouraging citizens to practice sports and to host international tournaments of different games. For his part, Bach stressed that he is honored to meet with the president, hailing the historic role of Egypt as a pioneering African and Arab country in different individual and team sports. The head of the IOC also expressed his utmost admiration of the modern, full-equipped infrastructure owned by Egypt, reflected in its ability to organize a variety of international competitions. On top of the list was the Handball World Cup 2021, which was a role model for perfect organization despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Bach highlighted his visit to the Olympic City in the new administrative capital, stressing that it's considered one of the biggest sports cities built according to the latest global standards and enables Egypt to host huge sports events.
Under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, activities of the 33rd International Conference for the Islamic Affairs Supreme Council kicked off under the theme of "Diligence is a necessity of the time." The conference is held with the participation of 200 ministers, mufti and the intellectuals. On behalf of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, the Minister of Endowments, Mohammed Mukhtar Guma, stated that the Islamic world is currently going through a very crucial stage, warning of the danger of giving fatwa without knowledge and stressing that violating the principles of the beliefs only serves the forces of extremism. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held an inspection tour following up on the pace of work in the Grand Egyptian Museum, the Gem, accompanied by a number of ministers and top executives. The Prime Minister stressed the state's keenness to finish all the construction works in the huge national project, which contains a treasure of the Egyptian great civilization, as its opening will be a much anticipated event to attract the tourists from all over the world. Madbouli also toured the surrounding area and gave his instructions to finish all the remaining developmental works in the roads and access leading to the Gem. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry addressed the 77th round of the UN General Assembly and laid down the Egyptian vision towards the world crises and the challenges. Here are the details.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry laid down Egypt's vision towards world crises at the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. He said that the UN General Assembly is holding this session at a historical juncture in which the world is witnessing complicated crises and conflicts that require serious actions, where diplomacy must be activated, on top of which is the rule of the United Nations. He said that at a time where the world is still reeling from the repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic, a number of geopolitical consecutive crises emerged to increase the heated and tense situation to an unprecedented level. From this perspective, he said Egypt is laying its vision and means of confronting the current challenges. He said that first, the United Nations system is still facing problems working outside its frameworks despite its ability to put an international active stance if the will existed that would preserve the world security, stability and prosperity. Shoukry called for respecting the United Nations system and the activation of its role and its restructure seriously and objectively to enable it to respond to the challenges the world face and fulfill the demands of the world nations. He reiterated the African demands for restructuring the organization according to the Oslo-Wini Accord and the Sut Declaration. Shoukry said that with the Russian-Ukraine war, the world is witnessing more burden and called for an international initiative that responds to the aims of exchanging debt and changing it into projects that create more job opportunities and contribute to the economic development. The top diplomat said that the current situation illustrates the world security became more relied on balance of power rather than the world collective security, creating a conflicting atmosphere rather than a cooperative one. He called for boosting the world consensus to secure the whole international security and stability. The top diplomat said that the current challenges threaten the existence of the sovereign states for the clear interference in its domestic affairs which weaken the state, enabling terrorist groups and armed mercenaries to control their destiny. He added that this has necessitated strengthening the state's institutions to enable it to perform their role, hence preserving the whole world peace and security. Shoukry said that the world is witnessing a direct threat to food security due to the current conflicts, as 1 out of 5 people in the African continent suffer from famine, as the continent is a pure importer to food with a cost of $43 billion. He called for a comprehensive strategy that aims at confronting the grassroots of the problem through the development of the agricultural sustainable systems and fulfilling the urgent demands of the developing countries' importers of the food chains. Shoukry expressed Egypt's willingness through its unique geographic location to cooperate with the international community and establish a strategic hub for the storage, export and trade of the grains to help protect the world food security. Shoukry said that Egypt, in its capacity as the host of the next COP27, calls on the international community to fulfill their obligations in responding to the climate change threats through decreasing the gas emissions and the proper funding that amounts to $100 billion, the usage of renewable energy, so as the developing countries would be able to confront the devastating impacts of the phenomena. Shukri reiterated Egypt's position towards its rights of the Nile River waters, putting into consideration the right of Ethiopia for development, but called on the international community to push for a legal binding agreement among all the involved parties and the commitments of all those parties. He said that Egypt supports a fair and comprehensive political solutions to the regional conflicts, on top of which is the Palestinian cause on the basis of the international resolutions and the legitimate references that stipulate the two-state solution with East Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian independent state. He added that Egypt supports and will continue its efforts to find political settlements in Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Sudan to preserve their unity, stability, and sovereign integrity, and the non-interference in their domestic affairs. The foreign minister at the end reiterated the importance of unity in face of all challenges facing the whole world and for the goals of sustainable development to prevail.
Earlier on the sidelines of his participation, Shukri, the president-designate of the UN Climate Change Conference, the COP27, held a meeting with the Alliance of the Small Island States, the OICs. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ahmed Abu Zaid said that Shukri stressed that Egypt is totally aware of the increasing damages witnessed by those countries due to the climate